This is the Unit 5 review guide for ELR 5.2. These are the questions for 5.2. The first one says, list the four substances in the picture below in order from least dense up to most dense. So the first thing that we have to realize is that the most dense things are going to sink. That's going to be the key to figuring this all out. So it's just going to be a matter of reasoning it all out. I'm going to make some spaces here where I'm going to write my four answers, and up here I'm going to say is the most dense, and down here is going to end up being the least. So in looking at my pictures, I've got block A, block B, liquid 1, and liquid 2. And based on these two pictures, I can figure out what's going on in terms of density for all of them. The first place that I'm going to start actually is with the most dense, the thing that always sinks, and it looks like it's A. In liquid 1, A and B, if I just look at that picture, A and B might have the same density, but A is definitely more dense than liquid 1. So I know that liquid 1 is going to be lower on this list than A. Looking at the next picture, and I also know that B is going to be lower than liquid 1 since it's also sunk. Looking at the next picture, all of a sudden B is floating and A is still at the bottom. So what this tells me is that A is more dense than liquid 1. It's also more dense than B, and it's also more dense than liquid 2 because it's sitting at the bottom. So block A has to go at the top of this list. The next thing that I'm going to notice is I'm just going to work my way down and figure out from top to bottom. The next thing is which is the next most dense. So in this case I'm looking at liquid 2. The reason why liquid 2 is the next most dense is because I know it's more dense than B, but B was more dense than liquid 1. So since liquid 2 is causing B to float, or liquid 2 is sinking, and I know that B is more dense than 1, I know that liquid 2 has to be next on my list. All I've got left to do is liquid 2 and B, and I can look at just this picture to figure that out. Liquid 1 and B. B is floating on top of liquid 2, and I can look at just this picture. B is sinking in liquid 1. So B is going to be the next most dense because it's sunk in 1, and liquid 1 is the least dense. The next question says, why is liquid 3 on the bottom? So we're looking at this picture over here. Liquid 3 is on the bottom because it is the most dense. Most dense things sink. Number 5, what do you know about the density of the button? Well, the button is kind of hovering in between 2 and 3, so we know that its density must be between the density, or the densities, of liquid 2 and liquid 3.